So, for months now, I've been keeping a close eye on the BlockDAG project. And look, like a lot of you, I saw a mountain of red flags. The general feeling, the consensus out there was pretty clear. But now, one single, tangible thing has happened that forces us to ask a really interesting question. Okay, let's just really get into this. What if, after all the missed deadlines, all the skepticism, all the doubts, what if BlockDAG actually pulls this off? What if the one project that looked like a total crypto cautionary tale ends up writing one of the industry's greatest comeback stories? For the longest time, honestly, this debate seemed pretty much over. All the evidence was just overwhelmingly pointing in one direction. But then, they actually kept one of their promises, and that kind of complicates the whole story. And this is it. This is the whole reason we're having this conversation right now. People are getting them. They're unboxing them on video. The hardware is real. It's in people's hands. Now, this one fact doesn't just magically erase all the problems of the past. Not at all. But it does force us to take a step back and re-examine everything. So let's look at the evidence for both sides, and we'll start with what got us here in the first place. Right, before we even entertain any kind of comeback scenario, we have to understand why so many people, myself included, were so quick to label this a scam. Because the list of concerns, well, it's pretty extensive. And we're not talking about small mistakes here, This is a consistent pattern of behavior. We've had multiple mainnet launch dates, that's the launch of the actual functioning blockchain, that just came and went and turned out to be little more than marketing events. They announced partnerships, like this big deal with an NBA team that just kind of vanished. The team later said the league vetoed it. And the timelines for everything, they've just been all over the map. And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the communication problem. The team loves to use this term, marketing launch, to talk about their promotional events. But listen, for any normal investor, the word launch means one thing. The product is live and working. So critics, for good reason, argue that this has been deliberately confusing, if not misleading. Yeah, this quote from the YouTube analyst Binance Stuff just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the frustration. There was this incident where a supplier partnership fell apart, and the team's explanation was that the supplier didn't want to deal with harassment from customers. As the analyst points out, come on, dealing with customers is literally part of doing business. The excuse just felt really weak, and it just added another layer of skepticism for everyone watching. And then there's this. This is a massive one. In March, you had the CEO, Anthony Turner, saying on camera, clear as day, that the $600 million pre-sale target was being dropped because, and I quote, it would have taken too long. Okay, but then just a few months later, the CMO, Nick Vandenberg, says, we're launching BlockDAG at $600 million, we've stuck to that. I mean, that's not a simple miscommunication. That is a direct contradiction from the project's own leadership about their number one goal. Okay, so that's the case for scam. And let's be honest, it's pretty compelling. But now let's flip the script. Let's actually explore the other side of this. Let's ask that question again. What if it's real? What would that even look like? This is the one domino that could, in theory, knock all the others down. The X10 miner is a real thing. It's shipping. For all the talk, for all the skepticism, this is a hard, verifiable fact. And it totally changes the conversation from if to, okay, what's next? So, if we follow this thread, what would the great comeback story actually look like? Well, first, all the hardware, the X10, the X30, the X100, they all have to ship, and they all have to work as advertised. Then, their X1 mobile app would need to be a huge success, turning millions of regular people into network users. After that comes the biggest, most critical step. The mainnet has to actually launch, and it has to be stable and scalable. And finally, all those vague hints about top-tier exchanges would have to become real, confirmed listings, bringing in a flood of new money. It's a huge long shot for sure, but it's a path you can actually see. So what you get from all this uncertainty, this constant push and pull between past broken promises and a little bit of present progress, is a community that is just deeply, and I mean passionately divided. You've got the true believers on one side and the hardcore critics on the other, and they're all looking at the exact same project and seeing two completely different things. And you can see this split perfectly in how people reacted to the same exact leadership AMA. The analyst Binance Stuff watched it and called it pretty amateurish, saying key questions were just ignored. At the same time, Crypto Talk Radio praised that same event, calling it so professionally done and saying the team is getting better. And then you have channels like BlockDAG investors who are all in, sharing every unboxing video they can find and constantly defending the project against what they call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So where does all this leave us? Well, right in the messy middle of a story that is still very much being written. The red flags are real, they are serious, and you absolutely cannot ignore them. But the progress, as small as it is also real. Let's just break it down one last time, side by side. The case against BlockDAG, it's built on a long history of delays, a mainnet that still isn't live, and some frankly bizarre contradictions from its own leaders. The case for comeback, well, it rests on the fact that miners are finally shipping, they have a huge and very active community, a really ambitious roadmap, and they have had security audits done. When it comes down to it, here's the bottom line. Shipping one batch of miners doesn't just erase the past, but it absolutely changes the conversation about the future. The project's entire fate now depends on whether this is the first of many promises they're going to keep, or if it's just a final, most sophisticated move in a long game of deception. The ending has not been written yet. So I'll ask you, which path do you think they're on?